Hello, welcome. My name is Ijeoma Emesowum, and I am so happy to be here today to talk about joy, a feeling of great pleasure and happiness. As I sit here today, I am filled with gratitude for the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, and the Neutrals, the ancestral guardians of the land, which through the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant and Treaty 29, I am here today, living, laughing, loving, and enjoying my life. These people and those that have made Turtle Island their homes, who because of hundreds of years of colonization have fought and are still fighting to reclaim their culture, languages, and joys that were denied and stripped from them by our settler ancestors and government. I take it as my responsibility and obligation to honor the treaties by respecting this land which I live on and all of Turtle Island. I can imagine the laughter, love, song, dance, and joy of all the peoples that have lived on this land for thousands of years before me. And I try to imagine the moments of laughter, love, and joy felt by the more than 2,000 Black slaves who were brought to and forced to live in Canada between 1671 and 1834, and the struggles that Black people face today and continue to fight against for acknowledgement of the past and equity within this country. I am so happy to be joined by some incredible artists and friends that are joining me from across Turtle Island to talk about joy. And when I say joy, I don't mean joy with a lowercase j. I mean all caps Black joy. So I would like to introduce these wonderful humans and a cat. First of all, I would love to introduce Monice Peter. She is an actor and a playwright and an incredible friend who handles postpartum friends with love and care. I speak from experience. She has worked across Canada and should be flying through Hogwarts right now, but COVID. So she is creating and thriving in Vancouver, where she is working with Urban Inc. to develop a play she's working on called Conversations with Bert Cork. Also, we have Starr Domingue. She is the definition of blaxcellence in the dictionary that's beside her name. She's joy encapsulated in human form. She is a professional performer for over 20 years. She is also a world champion baton twirler. Kind of just whoop, whoop, that's crazy amazing. She is a cricket cheerleader extraordinaire with a smile that commands you to smile. And an advocate for BIPOC artists, she created a YouTube series entitled The Blackter Studio, where she interviews talented BIPOC artists across Canada to give them a voice. We also have E.B. Smith. He is an actor, director, teacher, board game master, I know from experience, an activist and custodian of inspiration and historical knowledge. He is co-founder and director of creative strategy at Ghostlight, and pursuing a Master's of Art Administration and PhD from Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. And he is a senior consultant at H.C. Smith Limited, and of course, co-host of Old Heads podcast. E.B., thank you for being here. And David Collins, Dora-nominated actor, mentor. He's performed extensively throughout Canada on the stage and in film, television, and radio. He is a wisdom speaker between puffs of cigarettes. He is also a founding member of Obsidian Theatre, which has become one of the champions of Black theatre companies in Toronto. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks,
Ijeoma.
Pleasure to be here.
Woo! I just thought I would prime our conversation about Black joy and start off with a seed of Black joy, so to speak, that lives in all of us. Because Black joy to me is a physical manifestation and embodiment that lives through our beings and is connected with sensation and sense memory, to pull a theatrical term out for you. So from mundane to extraordinary, it's all encompassing. For me, it is the smell of plantain cooking in a frying pan on a Sunday morning. It is the experience of your knees giving out and falling to the ground with laughter.
Black joy to me is family at Christmas or any sort of event where everyone is talking over each other. They're talking Creole or patois. We're eating every single food possible, and there's leftovers, bakes, fried dough, dumplings, oxtail. That's family. People who are your family, but they're not really your family. All of that. That's what Black joy for me is.
Beautiful. EB. And Shirley the cat.
And this is Shirley the cat, who should probably go. Thank you. I used to hate getting tickled. Hated it. But the only person that could actually tickle me was my father. And that is one of the memories that I will always treasure. And every time my mother would go out of town on business, Black Joy tastes like the the fried catfish that we would go down to Hot Sauce Williams and get downtown Cleveland. Oh man, it was delicious. It was the only time we were allowed to have it. It wasn't allowed to be in the house otherwise because it's terrible for us, but it was delicious.
Black Joy for me has so many feelings and memories and senses. It's food always. So much delicious West Indian breakfast, bacon, saltfish, and sardines. And
cucumbers.
Cucumbers. Cucumber, chow with some mango. It has all the foods you could possibly imagine. It has so much laughter. Laughter as though you would never think you could laugh again, followed by more laughter. It is family. It is dancing. It is slow jams. You know when you hear a slow jam, you just want to like get in it. Get in it. It is so many things. I live my life by the grace of God, which encompasses all of my joy. But I live my life experiencing joy every day. And I hope that everybody gets to experience that. It's the most important thing in life. Find it, hold on to it. And I think that it is really important to use it to combat the negative forces in our lives. So Black joy is all the joy, is every joy.
All caps.
All caps, baby.
David.
Well, it's interesting. When you guys called me to ask me to be on this panel, the first thing that popped into my head was music. For me, Black joy has always been music. Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Count Basie, Quincy Jones, Diana Ross, the Jackson 5. That for me has always been Black joy. Also, the Apollo Theater. Many years ago, I went to New York, and that was my Mecca. The Apollo was Mecca. Got to go to Mecca. And I got up there, and it was closed. It was under renovation. But there were three old Black gentlemen sitting in front. And it was like the opening scene of Do the Right Thing. These guys are sitting in lawn chairs in front of the Apollo. And I walked up and I said, please, I'm from Toronto. I don't know if I'll ever get to New York again. I just want to smell the dust. Stick my nose in the door and smell the dust. And the old guy looked at me and he said, come here. So he took me inside and we went along the hall, and then he took me down a flight of stairs, and on the wall was a mural of everybody who's anybody who ever played at the Apollo. Pictures of Billie Holiday, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Richard Pryor. And I'm just going, wow. And then he takes me, and we're obviously in the dressing rooms. And I'm going, oh my God, the people that have been here, the energy that is in this room. And then he said, go to the top of the stairs there and turn right. I said, there's no lights on at the top of this. He said, go to the top of the stairs and turn right. I go to the top of the stairs, I turned right, and he turned on the lights. I was on the deck of the Apollo. I cried. I was so thrilled. And then many years later, I'm in New York again, doing a show. We had a day off, and I said to my friends, come on, let's go to Harlem. Nobody wanted to come to Harlem. Got on the A train, got off at 125th Street. Man walked up to me and he said, you want to see a show at the Apollo? Starts in 5 minutes. Here's a ticket. Run! So I dashed down 125th Street. I get to the Apollo. They're shooting Amateur Hour at the Apollo. It was a television series. I walk in. The place is full of Harlem. And for the next 3 hours. I'm sitting in this chair. I couldn't believe it. The thrill, the joy that came off of me and that came off of that room. For me, that was the first thing that popped in my head. That's the personification of Black joy.
It's interesting that you say that, because I think one of the things I've been thinking about, especially with COVID, is the energy and the communal aspect of Black joy. And that when I think of Black joy, I think of community and I think of groups of people. And that has been impossible, right, in this time. And so to really like kind of get deep into the conversation, I guess now, like what do we do now with no tangible community to maintain our Black joy and to inspire Black joy? And Carnival, you know, like these iconic times of coming together, religious services, they're not able to happen right now. So how do we as a community maintain that aspect of Black joy?
For me, it's YouTube. I get up, I turn on a Ray Charles concert from 1962 that's 2 hours long, Ray and his orchestra. I watch documentaries, music, Regina King, The Watchmen, Lovecraft Country. You know, that is where I'm getting my sustenance from.
It's meetings like this too. I mean,
oh yeah,
you know, working in the theater, you find yourself in a lot of predominantly white spaces, and honestly, there aren't a lot of opportunities to come together as Black folks, even when things are in full swing. Since the pandemic started, I have found myself in more Zoom rooms with my Black friends and family than I ever did before, and it has been such a balm for the soul. It's wonderful to have that connection and to realize that connection is going to be there when we go back in person. Like, we can't lose this aspect, because even when we find ourselves on an island, this coming together is so important.
I completely agree with you, E.B. The fact of the matter is that what the pandemic has done for us is, yes, we've lost a lot of revenue, we've lost a lot of opportunity, we've lost a lot of tangible physical presence, but it's opened an entirely new door to all of us with things like Zoom, like StreamYard, like YouTube, like even the Instagrams. All of these things have allowed us to come together with our brethren and sistren to commemorate, to commiserate, to enjoy each other and learn from each other. You know, that's the thing that I value the most about the pandemic, is that it's brought me closer to a lot of people. You know, that's what I've found the most beneficial about the pandemic, is that I've been able to reach out and touch someone in a whole different way. And that is absolutely right. We should not lose this medium. It really has afforded us a way to reach a larger population, people that are not coming to the Stratford Festival, the Shaw Festival of Toronto, to the Arts Club, people that are not here to see and witness Black excellence, Black joy. This has been a forum for that. Part of the reason why I didn't feel so much of a disconnect is, as you say, Ijeoma, I do the Blackness studio. So I get to experience Black joy and Black excellence regularly. I get to hear the stories that most people don't know, that most people aren't even trying to know or listen to. It's a whole different way of being and a whole different way of communication with people that I don't have to think about what I've said and how I've said it and who I'm hurting and how I'm offending. I just talk freely with these amazing artists about their experiences and their struggles and their you know, joys, excellences, all of that.
Monice, do you want to add anything to that?
Oh, I don't know if I can add anything other than echoing and agreeing with what everyone just said, and also finding comfort in small moments of joy in certain TV shows that I watch, or movies that I watch. I can't remember the name of the Stephen McQueen.
Small Acts?
Thank you. Small Acts. There's this one scene that brought me home and connected and made me want to go down a Calypso tangent, but they were just in, and remind me of my father, because my father's a Calypsonian. They were in the restaurant, and it was just the woman and the two guys, and they just like, and they just start singing out of nowhere, and then it's like 5 seconds, and I posted it on my Instagram because that's what that's the community. And I even have a link of my father, one of the family gatherings, 5 seconds of him, and a man have a pizza, no, like singing his own song. Like I was like, oh, it made me cry, but it also brought me so much joy and closeness to my culture and my father, and just that is that's how I can connect, I guess. That's music.
And this makes me think of like the things that we're watching on TV and what we're absorbing. I feel like right now we're in like a new time. There's a lot more kind of content, because part of Black Joy too is that we have joy, that, Blackness can be defined for our traumas and for the fight that we're fighting, but it's the visibility of the joy that is, the activism. And there's that saying, not even a saying, the truth that joy is a form of resistance.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, look, TV and film is going through a revolution right now, and creators like Shonda, and shows like Lovecraft Country, Watchmen. I mean, Small Axe is incredible, right? and this is starting to illuminate the fact that Black joy is actually how Black people survive the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's so much attention placed on the trauma, but ultimately the step that's not taken is like, well, what's our imagination doing, right? How did we create the blues out of slavery? How did we write epic poetry during revolution throughout the West Indies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is stuff that came out of our souls because we wanted to elevate above, right? Octavia Butler didn't come out of nowhere, right? The worlds that she created, the Afrofuturistic visions that she had were prophetic, and they are what we are dreaming towards. And that has got to be part of the solution too. I mean, I do a lot of work talking to white people about themselves, and it can be really painful, right? As a consultant, I go into these rooms, and it's really hard for folks to confront some of the systemic practices that they've been wallowing in for so long. Mm-hmm. But I say to them, yes, read White Fragility, read How to Be an Anti-Racist, right? Read So You Want to Talk About Race. These are great manuals to dissect and know, but in between them, you better be reading Octavia's Brood. You mm-hmm. better be reading The Parable of the Sower. You better be reading Everfair. You better be reading these books that describe our dreams, not just our deaths.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's great. Yeah. Does anyone else want to say anything to that?
I was just going to say my biggest pet peeve of all of entertainment is not seeing my actual lived life. So I'm not saying that the struggles didn't happen and that they're not important to illuminate, but the fact of the matter is, just like everybody else, we have many facets to our being. We have many different careers and aspirations and goals and dreams and inspirations. We have many different things. Even my lived experience is not the same as Monice, is not the same as E.B, David, Ijeoma. It's all different. And there seems to have been a time where the only lived experience was our white counterparts, when in actual everybody has struggles and strengths, and we should see that all portrayed. That's why shows like The Cosby Show were so instrumental in changing the views, not just of the Black people viewing it, but white people just going, oh, wait a minute, hold up. Y'all can be like professionals now.
Or just, just you're human, right? It's humanity.
Yes.
Like by erasing joy, we erase humanity and allow that, it gives you the permission to sit back and be like, well, they don't have humanity, they don't joy. So it's okay to kind of not feel guilty about all the things that have happened to them in the past and continue to happen.
And the fact that we were always here, we were always doing this. I mean, I'm teaching a class right now about a playwright named William Wells Brown, who was the first Black published playwright in North America. He was born a slave and then became a prolific writer and abolitionist. But nobody knows who he is, right? But the work is extraordinary, and the conversations he was having around abolition and the way he was having those conversations around abolition are exactly like we're having conversations now about Black liberation and this whole anti-racist movement that's coming around, right? And the more, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I love that you are bringing up names of people that we should be Googling and researching and studying, because we have to learn Shakespeare and Shaw and Chekhov, but we also have to learn Burt Williams. We have to learn about Janet Sears, Canadian. We have to learn about, like, we have to do more as well, because we need to hold on to these gatekeepers, those gatekeepers, or yeah, our gatekeepers, as well as, I guess, the predominant Eurocentric gatekeepers, but we also have to hold on to ours. But there is so much joy and pleasure in that. Their works are steeped in, just like you're talking about blues and the soul, like that work comes from deep down, and I can feel everything. I can feel it all.
Mm-hmm.
Our society is built on lifting up white ancestors, but we have to do the work to lift up our own, right? Like they need to share that pantheon.
And it's a double thing that we have to do too, because we have to discover them, we have to share them, we have to amplify them, and then bring them up, and then go, there's also this person, there's also this person, and it kind of goes into, I'll say one little quote too, because you brought up one of my literature mentors, Octavia Butler. Reading her work changed my life, also in the fact that I read a person who looked like me, who was the protagonist of the story, and was going through all these things. And that was life-changing for me. But she said, one of her quotes was, "The world is full of painful stories. Sometimes it seems as though there aren't any other kind. And yet I found myself thinking how beautiful that glint of water was through the trees." And it's like, it's that joy that we have to foster within each other. And it's not denying the struggles, but also lifting our joys. And so I also would love to ask, and to shout out another name. There's a book that's been written called Pleasure Activism by Adrian Marie Brown. And in this book, which is fantastic, especially Black women identifying, read this book. It's amazing. She talks about pleasure active lineage, and how, there's someone who awakens that in us. And I thought that this relates so beautifully to Black joy. So I would like to ask you who awakened your Black joy in you, and who was your mentor of Black joy?
I can say. Oh, David, you haven't spoken in a hot. Go.
I'm glad Monice brought up Janet Sears, because when you said that, that's the first person that popped into my mind. Janet started a movement in Toronto sort of in the late 90s. And she started, and it wasn't anything formal, it just sort of started to happen. What she did formally was she brought together an evening of Black actors, directors, playwrights, and we just put on an evening of plays and pieces, and that sort of evolved into this play that was called The Adventures of a Black Girl in Search of God. I see Starr smiling because she was on that journey with me. And I cannot tell you the feeling in my heart and soul the first day I walked into that rehearsal hall and saw all of these beautiful Black faces. And you want to talk about Black magic. We did a couple of workshops, couple of readings, and then we did a playwright festival, and we did a staged reading of it, and sort of sat around and said, geez, wouldn't it be nice if we could actually put this up? And everybody went, yeah, wouldn't it? And so out of that came Obsidian Theater. It was 12 of us gathered in somebody's house and said, okay, we're going to do this thing. A couple of weeks later, we had a meeting and it was time for the adventures to go up. But ultimately, we were $30,000 short. And the vote went around the table. So what do we do? Do we continue, or do we just scrap this thing now? And it was just, let's just go and see what happens. And don't you know, somebody handed a business card to somebody, and next thing you know, there's a meeting set up at TD Bank. The man made the horrible mistake of patronizing Alison Seeley Smith. She tore a streak up one side of his head, down the other, and Buddy signed a check for $30,000. And don't you know, TD Bank is still to this day a sponsor of Obsidian Theater. For me, I felt like I was in the middle of the Harlem Renaissance. And that's exactly the feeling that Janet managed to conjure. And now 20 some odd years later, Obsidian started as the alternative theater company, and now they are mainstream.
One of my first contracts was The Adventures of a Black Girl in Search of God. So I walked into a room filled with people that look like me. And you know, it's neither here nor there. Everybody has personalities. Everybody does, right? But you know, when you walk into a room and you're like, oh my God, there couldn't be more love in this room. That was what it was like for me walking into that room. And it was, I don't know, 30 people. The entire creative team was there, you know, making music I had never heard on a stage. Making the dancing felt like home, the singing felt like home, the story felt like home. It was a Canadian, African, Caribbean story. That experience for me began my life as an artist, really. I mean, let me clarify, I worked before that, but that was like my first real equity, I'm going to be an actor situation, right? And then directly thereafter, I went to do a show called Cooking at the Cookery, written by Marion J. Caffey, who's a playwright and singer, dancer, actor extraordinaire, who runs the Apollo Theater now. Full circle. And Marion J. Caffey, who basically took me under, like, to this day, I feel like he was like an uncle. He just had so much pride in me as a performer. Continued to cast me, took me under his wing, showed me all the ways. I mean, you know, there's this conversation that there aren't any. And I've been so fortunate to see so many, and they're so giving and loving and full of joy and just want to push all of us forward. David Collins included in that. I will never forget that experience with you. It to this day is one of my all-time favorite shows. I talk about it all the time.
It was transformative for all of us because at that point I had been an actor for a long time. But had never experienced anything like that group, that music, that dance, and that huge epic love story. When does a Black man get to be a legit romantic leading man? I'm not beating anybody. I'm not raping anybody. I'm not hurting anybody. It was all about this huge epic love story. That's absolutely transformative for me. Changed the face of Canadian theater, quite frankly.
This sort of gets to the heart of this whole conversation for me, because I spent 10 years sort of exclusively in classical theater and white spaces, almost. But there were a couple of experiences that punctuated that made me feel home again. One of them was Fences with Janet Sears. And again, that feeling you described, Starr, of walking into a room and going, oh my God, I can breathe, right? These people see me, and I can just be there. I don't have to answer any questions. I don't have to be on the lookout for microaggressions, right? If anything happens in this room, because let's face it, no room is safe inherently. But if anything happens in this room, we can talk about it. And we can talk about it right then and squash it. But who awakened that in me, I think I got to give props to a guy named Dr. Hugh Morgan Hill, who went by Brother Blue. He was a storyteller out of Boston. He would dress all in blue rags and stuff, like colorful rags. He would paint butterflies on his face and on his hands, and he would wander all over Boston. He was a PhD. He taught at Harvard, but he would just wander all over the streets telling stories to people. And he was a griot, honest to God griot, and he held the story, and he would tell it to everyone. And in terms of that multidisciplinary approach, I mean, the man knew the entire canon of William Shakespeare word for word in his head, but he also knew the story of the Middle Passage. And he also knew the stories of slavery and the escape and the struggle for liberation. And he would weave those things together because they're all related. It's all the human story, right? And he would contextualize that for you in ways that really made you understand the joy that it takes to survive that stuff.
I was fortunate enough in the late 80s to do Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And that for me, again, was a transformative experience with the brilliant Jackie Richardson starring as Ma Rainey. And oh my God, what a joyful experience that was to be able to, again, do this enormous epic piece in the backspace of Pass Marai, but we blew the walls off the place. And it ran for 3, 4, 5 months. We ran until we couldn't run anymore. And again, that was transformative. Having that man's text to speak. He was speaking with my voice. He was speaking with the voices of all the other men and women in that room, which didn't exist when I started in the 70s. Actually, I didn't get to speak in my own voice probably until the late 80s. I'm talking a Black Canadian voice. The first time that happened was a man named Andre Alexis, who is now a prolific novelist, but he started as a playwright. And it was all these little fringy things, but it made such a difference in my life, in my career, and in myself to finally have my own voice to speak.
It's hard. It's difficult, especially growing up watching the things that I watched in the whatever 90s, 2000s, early 2000s. It's really difficult to hold on to any sort of idea that this can be something that can produce pleasure in somebody else or can produce pleasure in myself. I will talk about this again in terms of when I felt the most revered and sexy and just damn awesome was when I did Julius Caesar at the Stratford Festival. I think that would be the only time that I didn't have to produce any sort of thing, like, or conjure up any sort of thing. I just felt I was just there. I was, this is me, this is joy, this is my talent, and this is my, I always say, up on that Stratford stage, I am already a political statement, just being there. Don't have to say anything, just being there. But doing Julius Caesar, and I was pondering, like, why? And it was the time and the care that the costume designer and all of the people who worked on this one outfit, this one nightgown that was shapeless, but it was so beautiful. They would see, like, oh, your cuff is slightly too long. Let's just put it up half an inch. I don't even think they know how much that helped me get into my own.
I think that we as BIPOC Black, we as Black folk, when we walk into these theaters, and oftentimes we are told that, to wear our skin color tights, and then the skin color isn't mine, or put on a wig, and clearly that hair could not be mine, or it was the time and consideration taken to see who you were, to value who you are, what you brought, your body, your look, your soul in that moment. It wasn't like they put you into a blanket statement nightgown and just said, go. They were like, we're talking about Monice Peter. Okay. And we're going for her.
The thing about Black bodies is they look at us all the time. They look and they look and they look, but rarely do they see us.
I was like, do they look?
Oh, they love to look. I've been on stage plenty in, like, no clothes. They love to see that. But truly seeing us is a different story. Right. And I think, if I may, Monice, I think what you're alluding to is that, right? Like if a colleague, doesn't matter what racial background they are, but if they see me and I understand that connection is there, that they are doing their best to see who I am and what I'm bringing to something, suddenly it's a much more rewarding experience.
I mean, we are such a strong people. Black people are such a strong people, and we have to go through life always having to hold that weight of, I am strong, I can go through this, I can do it, I can do it. But when you can have, like, a moment of relief when someone is like, here, let me hold something for you. Let me take care of you. Let me take care of that cuff. Let me design something specifically for you so you don't have to like will strength into you because it's so hard. It's so heavy. And just a moment of relief can make a world of difference.
Like in your whole experience, not just in, I look pretty or I feel good in this outfit, but in your whole experience was altered, as we are hearing right now, just by them taking the time to make you feel valued and seen. Like it's profound. I think that that's what's so jarring for me is that's profound. It's profound that we have to say that. That's what I'm always really surprised about. Like, one might think that everybody knows these things, and yet we consistently have to say it. I find that very surprising. I'm constantly surprised by that.
In that moment, what I'm hearing also is that you felt the pressure of having to prove your strength and your power was not necessary, and that you were in that moment allowed to stand in the glory of who you are as a human and as a Black woman, in beauty, in sexuality, in sensuality, in power on that stage. And that in that moment, I'm picturing the other girls and boys sitting there going, oh, and I remember that dress, like that beautiful gown in the light. And that is a part of mentorship of Black joy, is being able to have those moments to be, look where I am, here I am. And it leads me to another topic too, which kind of goes with this, is Cleaver Crews. If you haven't heard of him, he's out of United States, and in 2015, so this is years ago, he started something called the Black Joy Project. And he was just, feeling burdened and overwhelmed by his activism and the death around him. And he mentioned, and this triggered my improv brain, but he mentioned that Black joy is a yes and. And so I want to ask you all, what is your yes and? What is our yes? What does that mean to you? What does that statement mean to you as a performer, as an artist, as a human being?
What pops into my head is walking down the street in Western Canada, where there were very few Black people. And every once in a while, you'd see a brother walking towards you on the sidewalk. And you'd look at him and he'd look at you, and you'd just do that. And just that moment was like, oh, somebody sees me, somebody knows me. It was ecstatic, because you'd go for weeks and weeks and weeks and not see somebody that looked like you, but not only looked like you, but knew what you were going through. Knew what you were going through every day. And without saying a word, all of that communication happened in just a nod.
I feel like that still is happening today.
Mm-hmm.
It happens all the time in Stratford.
Well, but like even in Toronto, I feel like there's a kind of camaraderie in just acknowledging, there's a whole conversation surrounding homeless people, and part of their oppression is that people don't see them. And when you're living your life and you're not impoverished, because by the grace of God, we aren't, and yet still we feel like we're not being seen. Like that's a whole other kind of issue that we kind of deal with every day, is that we're not being seen. And if we are seen, not necessarily in the greatest light, that acknowledgement in a crowded mall, on the street, in a line up, right? Currently, you're lined up outside to get into a store, to just look across and be like, I see you. How are you today? Let me give you this smile and know that I see you.
Yes, and
Black joy as a yes.
I mean,
go ahead, Monice.
No, I was just gonna say I'm Black and I'm beautiful. I'm Black and I'm sensual. I'm Black and I'm talented. I'm Black and I'm angry sometimes. I'm Black and I'm sad. I'm Black and I'm whatever, everything. So And I don't know, in this moment, I'm Black and I'm here with you all. Like, it's that's not like a perfect answer. Sorry, Joe.
No, it's great. It's Black joy is a yes, and I'm a human. Yes, I am sad. Yes, I am angry. Yes, I am hungry for more. Yes, I love. Yes, I am tired. Yes, I feel joy. You know, like that's what I'm taking from what you're saying, and that it's okay to feel all of those things and have joy.
It's also a sense of humor too. I mean, we face a lot of systemic issues, and we live in that space a lot, right? And we're trying to figure out how to disrupt that damage and that harm. But in the middle of it, it's actually hilarious. You know, I mean, so much of this conversation is funny because people are acting so ridiculously. I think of the comment by Zora Neale Hurston. Sometimes I feel discriminated against, but it doesn't make me angry. It merely astonishes me. How can anybody deny themselves the pleasure of my company?
Amen.
Because that's all they're doing.
I went to the 40th anniversary of the Shaw Festival one afternoon. It was this big party, and I'm standing in line waiting to get a drink or something, and this very nice little old white lady came up to me and took my hand and shook it, and she said, "I just thought you were fantastic in Top Dog Underdog the other night.
No.
I just want to thank you for your performance." And I said, "Thank you very much," and let her go on her way. And I came back and told E.B the story.
Oh, I think that's universal for Black actors in this country, you know, passing on props.
Nigel was
Alexis Gordon,
right
you were fantastic in Carousel. Just had to tell you, I was told that at the supermarket. You were fantastic. Just letting you know.
Yeah.
When Andre came back for Coriolanus, he said to me, "Well, at least maybe now they'll see us together and figure out we're two different people."
Oh,
well, you can't deny it when you're side by side.
He was congratulated at the Shaw for something I did at Stratford the year before.
See, y'all are talking about being actors and being congratulated. I know many a man who are not in the business that be at the show and be like, "Oh my God, you were great. You were fantastic.
Oh.
Thank you." I definitely have seen that conversation take place. People that I know that look nothing. I mean, nothing like the actor portraying that character. Alan Louis in Dracula. The person I'm speaking about that got congratulated is probably E.B. color. So
on stage, we all look the same color, didn't you know?
It's the same thing.
Body type, same height, like we all, you know. And again, I always. Sorry, go ahead, Monice.
No, I was just going to say that brings up a really interesting point, because it's not necessarily just the fact that other people are getting named or propped, but the fact that we're not working enough so that you can distinguish me from
Go on.
E.B. or Andre or David.
And we're not all on a stage together. Like, you know, there's not multiple people all to show that.
And working prominently enough. I mean, it's one thing for us to repeatedly be in the ensemble or, you know, supporting cast, but to not have the sort of opportunity for people to hear our voices, like our own personal voices, what comes from our heart, right? Like it's hard to do that with plebeian number 2 and Julius Caesar.
Exactly.
We are almost at time. It's so hard because I know it's almost been in an hour. This conversation can go on, you know, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. But I just want to say our responsibility. Do you think as performers and as artists, we have a responsibility to try and cultivate joy in our Black brothers and sisters who, you know, may be struggling during this time? And how do we do that?
I think that it is our responsibility as humans to make sure people have joy. That is my number one, literally my number one motivation in life, is to make sure people have joy. I think that we are living our lives without joy.
And inspiring.
Overburdened.
and
David.
inspire others to jump on the stage. I mean, I never saw a Black actor on stage as a child, teenager, even as a young man. There wasn't anybody. And I know that, you know, when we do a school matinee of whatever, and there's going to be some Black boys sitting in that house that want to do this, that are scared to do this, but they see me, they see E.B, they see Ijeoma, Starr, Monice. It's possible.
Mhm.
I can do this if I'm prepared to do the work. I can
Or
do
anything, you know, or any aspect of the world that we live in, you know. David, you said something in our little pre-talk that really struck me, which was, you know, when Obama became president, they could no longer deny the fact that my body, you said, that my body could be a lawyer, could be, you know, in power, sit at the head of the table.
exactly.
And that really struck me. So that's what you are, you know, that's what we are when we're on stage, is the proof for the generations to come that didn't have that. So that we are fostering that joy.
Look,
E.B, Monice, did you want to add anything else too?
sure. I mean, look, race was constructed as a tool of power, to impose power and to affect power. So the only way to disrupt that is to own your own power, right? And I've come back to university to do my master's, my PhD, but while I'm here, I'm teaching a lot. And, you know, coming in, it was very clear that the Black students in the School of Theater were upset, right? It's a predominantly white institution. There's no Black people in leadership here, really, at least not in the School of Theater, College of Fine Arts, right? And so it's very challenging for these kids to see a sort of path out, right? And there's a lot of systemic issues sort of hovering around what's going on. And so they were all very upset. And so the conversations I've been having with them have all been around like owning that agency, right? How not only to take care of yourself and protect yourself, but how to thrive to the degree that you don't have to protect yourself. I mean, ultimately, that's what lets us rise above, is just to go, look, y'all, the Black people are fine. Y'all got the problem. And if you're feeling guilty, you should interrogate that, because maybe you had something to do with it.
It's a lot of hard work to do it on your own and to feel like you have to lift your own self up. And if we can all, I would advise people to like take the pressure off. If there's a community, it's ever, so there are people before us and there will be people after us who are lifting or doing the work. So we're all part of the work. We don't have to power through. We don't have to power through. Release it a little bit. And I don't mean like stop caring. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying like release the grip a little bit. I have to learn how to. I'm saying that because I have to learn how to do that.
It's great. It's great what you're saying, because I think that it's true. And I'd like to, just as we wrap up here, if you could give 2 or 3 shout outs, be it books, authors, television programs, music that you listen to, poets, anything, just names, titles, just to flood the Black people that are watching, and you know, and the white audience members that are tuning in today, any race. If you're watching, check these out, amplify these voices, because that is what we need to do to spread Black joy and to just amplify the power and spread the power that we all have within us. So Octavia Butler, Afua Cooper, Dr. Afua Cooper, Audre Lorde, Beyonce.
6 Level Peril, Superior Shea Butter Blends, which is a lotion, Sharissa Richards, Keisha T. Frazier, Mike Payette.
Great. David Collins.
Phil Aiken, Janet Sears, Darren Herbert as the Music Man blew my mind.
I'd like to shout out my program or my workshop that I give. It's called Poems by Playwrights of the African Diaspora. And I have gone with, I've studied Bert Williams and his poetry and his songwriting. And I've also studied a little bit of D.B. Young's lovely work.
D.B. Young, yes. Mm-hmm. That's great. E.B.
Well, Old Heads Podcast.
Plug yourself, always.
Always. But as well, Adrian Marie Brown, look her up, check out her work. Taking It Back to the Ancestors, James Baldwin, Blues for Mr. Charlie, read the play. Funny House of a Negro, Adrian Kennedy, William Wells Brown, Zora Neale Hurston.
There's so many more right now. We're all our mouths are salivating right now with the black excellence that we all know. There's so like, listen, I have pages. Oh God.
I wrote everything down, then I was like, leave it alone.
You know, poems and you know, Essie Edegoyen and you know, like
coconut oil.
Sadie Berlin.
Can we talk about the ladies dominating the Toronto theater scene right now?
Artistic director Sadie Berlin.
Sadie Berlin. Artistic director Wayne Mangata.
Wayne, yeah.
Audrey Dwyer. Natasha Mumba.
I forget. I'm sorry, I forget her name. That's the one. Incredible! Wow. 21 Black Futures.
Oh,
Tanisha Tate.
on CBC. Tanisha Tate.
Oh man, there's so many.
There's so many.
Kimberly Rampersad.
And it's not that we forget you. It's that. It's so much. I like. It's so rich. It's so rich.
There's just so many of us, guys. There's so many of us. There's no forgetting anybody. There's so many of us, even if you don't know us.
Look, if you hold the belief that we're not out there, it's because you haven't been looking.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just encourage everyone to spread the love, spread the joy. Black joy is power. It is resilience in the face of trauma, continued trauma, and our ancestral trauma. It is happiness. It is joy. It is so many things. And I just want to thank you, Monice. Thank you, E.B. Thank you, David. Thank you, Starr. This is a tiny, tiny bit of this incredible conversation that I'm so happy to have had you here to join me with. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.